Yeah,
Welcome. Is there a bit going on, Ian? Is there a lot going on? Is that the topic?
there's there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and I can't. I'm having trouble getting my mind around stuff. There's just so
Okay.
many things. Uh, There's
I
work.
kind of want you to share more, but I also can hear the overwhelm in when you're saying
I'm
there's
just.
just so many things.
It's bubbling up, right? So I'm gonna have to read them because there's so many. There's work. There's parties. There's coaching. There's workshops. There's death and funerals and more work because of the death and the funerals. There are surgeries. There are appointments. There are uh uh kids stuff. There's confirmations. There's birthdays. There's date nights. There's working out. There's like personal stuff. There's freaking um daylight savings time, which is messing things up and you're not sleeping right. And then you got elections and they're just shit, weird things going on. It's just
And
too
then
much
there's
stuff.
Christmas. And then there's
No, 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 no.
Christmas.
I don't need more stuff. I don't need more lists. It's getting insane. I was sitting down with Julie at dinner or just after dinner, and she was like, "Oh, we have a couple more things." I'm like, "We don't have any more things. There's no more room for things." So she started giving me the things, and I'm interrupting her because I'm trying to like program it in. I'm like, no, 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 just tell me what time. She's like, let me finish. I'm like, just give me the time, and then I'll know what I need to do. And I'm plugging them in.
So,
I'm like, okay, I think that can work. Okay, you'll have to cover. I'll have to. Well, anyways, there's just a lot of stuff. And
so have you worked out how to duplicate the number of hours in the day then so that you can get all the stuff done?
I don't know if that helps. I don't know if that helps. Um, but while in the midst of like today, anyways, because honestly, I didn't know where this was going to go, other than when you asked, what do you got going on? I just felt like that's the topic. Even if I have zero idea what I'm doing with it, it's just there's a lot going on.
Mm.
And then there was the US elections this week, which I know I shouldn't get super wound up or tied up in somehow, but it's everywhere. It literally
It
is. And I don't know if
it is
it's,
everywhere.
is it over to you everywhere?
Yeah, it is a little bit. It is a little bit. There's a lot of on my Facebook feed. There's a lot of comments going on, either pro or
Connor.
con, whatever, somewhere in between. Unfortunately, America does impact Australia quite significantly. So the outcome does impact us, even though we like to think that we live on this isolated little island that may not get impacted, but we will be. Um, so yeah, there's a bit of interest in it. And there was even so this week in Australia, we have something called the Melbourne Cup Day. So that
Okay.
happens on the 5th of November,
Okay.
Tuesday.
The day after.
So the day after, but it was the day
The
before,
day of for you.
right? And
Yeah.
so what the stations did to compete with each other, because one we have three main stations, TV stations here in Australia, 7, 9, and 10. So 10 were doing the coverage of the Melbourne Cup. So
Okay.
that means that there's a lot of horse. So the Melbourne Cup is a horse race.
Oh, okay. Thank
Sorry,
you
I
for
didn't qualify that.
that.
It's in it's in Victoria, it's in Melbourne, and they have a public holiday for it. It is that significant. So there is horse races prior to the Melbourne Cup horse race that is all in the lead up to the Melbourne Cup race, which happens around 1 p.m. or something like that here. So one station is all Melbourne Cup. The
Okay.
next TV station is all American election, interviewing people, blah, 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 all of the stuff.
All
And
right.
it's like, yep, so we were hit with it on Melbourne Cup Day, when really all we want to focus on is a horse race and, long lunches, essentially. That's what Melbourne Cup Day looks like. And so, yes, we are affected.
So, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't. And and I ended up realizing over the course of today was that I have zero control over what happens there. Zero, other than the fact that my attention is I'm allowing my attention to be drawn there and I keep it there. Um, but the underlying theme is loss of control.
Oh, for all of the things that are going on, like for all of the things.
I've tied the knots together now, but when I wasn't understanding it, what came up for me was the loss of control. That I feel like um, I've allowed that situation to occupy my thoughts and my mind and my emotions, and it's like I have zero control there. But that's actually accurate. I don't have any control over what happens there. I don't have to let it control me because it's not for regardless of who's been in charge at any given time, whether it's been that country or my country or your country, yours even lesser because I have zero knowledge of your political system. My life really hasn't changed that much from person to person, party to party, dipshit to dipshit. It doesn't matter who's on top for the most part. There's really not that much different that happens in my day-to-day life. So why am
Mhm.
I giving away my control and power to something that really doesn't affect me unless I let it affect me?
Mm. And that's easily understood and accepted when it comes to something like watching the outcome of how America votes. Gets a little trickier when it's a little closer to home.
True. And that's why I think all of the things that were have been coming up for me lately, it just seems like there's too many balls in the air. So though that wasn't like an emotional ball in the air, I don't have anything physically to do about it other than to detune and focus somewhere else and focus on what I'm learning about myself based on that. I mean, that's all positive stuff. I actually had an interesting conversation with my barber yesterday, and I couldn't believe the stuff coming out of his mouth. But it kept me asking questions and trying to be open because I couldn't believe how everything that he said seemed like the exact opposite to my reality with regard to the election. It was bizarre. Like I actually thought he was going to put the other person's name at the end of what he said. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, where did you hear that? What's like I tried to stay out of it more than in it. Um, but so that's my control over it. My control is to be curious. My control is to be what can I do, not what I can't do.
A- And if we're not into the emotional investment spiral, then that can be easy to do, right?
Mhm.
We can stand back and do the observation and do the discovery and but it can get a little bit caught up. So I'm going to share a little micro story. So this week we did have a date night. My husband and I went and saw a comedian. I know, funnily, we were just sharing that you and
We
Julie
both did the
also did
same
this
thing, just
on
not
the
in the
other
same
side of the
country, and we
world.
didn't watch the same person.
No, but funnily, that I just think that's hilarious. Anyway, so we were doing that on Wednesday night, and during that day, I'd had a lot going on as far as client support. That was fine. That's all handled nicely. But my other role that I'm doing this year and next year and the year after is part of being part of the board for Professional Speakers Australia. And I love that I've been given this opportunity and it's a lovely role to have, but it also involves a lot of work, a lot of activity. And one of the activities is having conversations with other people either on the board or who contribute to what the board needs to have happen. And I was finding it really frustrating. My things weren't going as what I thought they would. People weren't responding in the way that I thought that they would. I'd suggested something and it took another half an hour for that other person to come back and go, oh, you know what would be a good idea? And that was exactly the thing that I'd suggested half an hour ago. Like that kind of stuff was going on. And it was doing my head in. I couldn't make sense of it. Like I was going, I don't understand what strategy can I use to communicate this better? Because obviously it
Not
didn't get
communicating.
communicated, didn't land. And so I'm, doing a lot of this inside my head. So that had been going on Wednesday. Now, Wednesday, there was also other changes that happened in the pattern of my day, which was my husband drove home he'd been away for work and he got home about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which was actually really good timing for us to then, he got to have a little bit of a sleep before we were going out that night. Like the timing for him was great. It interrupted my work pattern because now he's home and now he's sleeping inside the house that is my workspace.
Hmm.
So that becomes a thing. Anyway, I was managing that. That's fine. We get out into the city. We're going for a walk. We had arrived about half an hour before the dinner reservation. So we went for a wander across the bridge and back again. And he he said to me a couple of times, Chris, are you present? Are you with me yet? I was like, damn, my head hadn't settled.
Hmm.
I hadn't been able to switch off the activity of what had happened earlier in that day. And so, as much as I was walking across the bridge and I was doing some deliberate, oh, look at the lights on that building. I haven't seen that before. Oh, what was that noise? Oh, that was a jet ski going underneath the bridge. Like I was being present with the activity. I was trying really hard, but obviously I wasn't because he had to highlight. He's like, Chris, you're not here yet. You haven't switched off the work stuff yet. And I finally had to say out loud to myself, I can't change what's happened today. And it is no benefit for me to be focused on this for the rest of the evening. I need to just stop the chatter going on in my head and the replaying of the event and the should I do it differently and how am I going to do it differently tomorrow and what's that going to be? Oh my goodness, the noise was phenomenal. So I just had to stop. I just had to put a stop to it. And that's the way that another version of there was a lot going on in my head. And it
Yeah,
didn't allow me to be
it
present.
completely sucked you out of the possibility of being present.
Yep. And whether it's a lot of activity in in the physical world or a lot of activity going up in the mental world, it's a lot. And how do we efficiently handle that?
Um, I don't know because just before we got on, I said that there's like a lot of balls in the air, and I don't know if I'm juggling very well or they're juggling me. So
And I think that's why when I went, okay, I'm just going to stop that, just turn that voice off. And anytime it would come in, I'd go, oh no, I'm looking at the Brisbane River. No, I'm looking at the pretty lights. No, I'm focusing on what food I'm eating. But I had to keep pulling myself up and just turning that off. So it required strong boundary.
did it keep coming up as you were doing the things?
It probably came up 3 times. And I snuck it in like I was a bit naughty. We got ushered into our table for the dinner, which was lovely, and then Ren's had to go to use the restroom, so that's fine. I checked my phone and I was like, Chris, stop it. Just stop. Because I was looking for feedback to go, oh, has anyone commented on that? Like what else I could maybe do, you know? Like shake it out of me. Um, what was then interesting, so we got through the night and it was fine. It was a lovely dinner and it was a lovely show and we eventually got home and I went to sleep because I was really, really tired. And then got up yesterday and I had this random conversation where like an automatic solution
Hmm.
appeared to deal with this situation without any effort of my brain
Hmm.
because I had been able to quieten it down. a solution appeared regardless of my mental chatter. And so I thought, well, isn't this, it was another reminder that if I stop pushing my agenda or my busyness and I give a little bit of space, then there's allows something else to show up to help support me.
Trying to relate it. Um, because I'm trying to think, am I pushing it or
Well, so when we feel like we've got a lot going on, we've obviously said yes to a lot of things, and maybe we feel like we shouldn't have said yes to those many things, that many things. But whenever I find myself in that situation, if I just accept and surrender to the busyness, it doesn't feel so busy.
Hmm.
And and if I feel like I've got to be in two places at once, something happens where somebody else goes, "Oh, actually, I can do that thing over here." And I don't have to be in two places at once. So,
that actually happened. I can't go into specifics because otherwise I might ruin something. But yeah, there was a double booking, maybe even a triple booking. And I was able to get out of one. And then the other one, I'm like, I think I can manage it, even if it is the case, that's fine. And then it got canceled. So, and then now something else has filled the void of these double bookings. So I am still double booked, but it had to happen anyways. It's not it doesn't matter. We all have a place to be at a certain time, and that'll all work out. So, but if it was triple booked, then it would have been even way
even
more
more challenging.
complicated. Yeah, yeah,
And I wonder if it's our perception that it's going to be super challenging that gets us caught up in this, it's all too much. Do we just create the reality to say it's all too much?
or maybe it's the flip side of what I had last weekend, which seemed to be like I had space. I didn't have a wife for a weekend. I had both kids, but one of the kids ended up being invited for a sleepover in the woods, and then he loved it so much they stayed a second night. So I only had Mia. So we had like nice family alone time, or family. Me and my daughter had some one-on-one time playing games and doing things together, making baking and stuff. So like we had it was nice, but it was like last weekend was like breathing time. And now this week, working into the weekend, it seems like it's like I don't know if the universe kicked my butt because they're saying, "Oh, you had nothing last week, so here,
So now you can do everything.
yeah, avalanche, yeah, and then get it done. You got things to do, yeah." So, and
And
last week was
we've
great because
got
I go ahead.
almost a double booking coming up in a couple of weekends' time. And it was just that accidental where I said yes to something and forgotten that we were going to do something in the morning as well. And now we're going to have like this really short window to get from one event to the other.
Mm.
And there's two solutions, right? It's like just don't show up at the first event, or we show up at the first event and trust the timing that we can leave when we need to leave and get to where we need to be. Now, if I put energy into, oh my God, now I've got to bail on this first event, and now I've got to come up with a reason why we're not being able to go to that, and have that conversation, and oh, what's that response going to be? And I could get all very busy in that, or I could just trust
Mm.
that if I've said yes to both things, then it's just going to work out. There will be enough. And so I wonder how much I create the complexity of the everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Because all those things you listed off as the everything's going on, all those things happen in life all the time, right?
I don't. It seems like there's more things happening. it just seems like it's compressed into a really small window of time.
And is
And
that just this time of year as we're leading into Christmas? Do we get that? Do you think that's a timing, like a year thing that happens? Is it this time of year that creates a bit of this?
I don't November. I don't maybe trying to cram things in before the other
Before the
stuff
end of the
starts to
year or
happen.
before Christmas or before, yeah, like we go, oh, we're getting to the end of the thing. Like, do we speed everything up and try to cram in heaps? I just wonder whether it's a more, a bigger psychology that's going on.
I think there's something to the over what do you call it? Over committing, right? Overbooking the schedule. Um, like at the moment, I've got quasi three gigs in my life, right? The government work, the CrossFit work, the my own coaching and balancing work. So there's been some um, increased scheduling there. There's also been some extenuating circumstances with, people having family members die and needing help and wanting to help people out who are in a worse position than you, right? I mean, I know I leaned on people a few weeks ago for the same, exactly the same thing, right? So I would want to be supported the way that
When,
supported
yeah, so
you.
you can give the support.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's reciprocal, right? So I think maybe that wouldn't be the case if one of these things weren't happening at the same time, but they are. Um, so maybe it's being more mindful even of my own time and energy too, that there's only so much I can take on as well.
And then that comes back to this, our ability to be clear about what we want to achieve and being and saying yes to the things that match that.
Right.
And we forget because we get caught up in the moment or the person that's asking because we want to help them because we really like them or we but whatever that is, we get caught up in the saying yes. I don't know that humans are very good at saying no. I don't come across too many of them that are good at saying no.
We'll have to ask them what their schedule looks like.
Because I set an intention to say no things. So I actually came in from work yesterday and said to friends, well, business is definitely visible again. It's all happening. People are coming out of the woodwork. I don't know where they're coming from, but they're coming out of the woodwork. Now that's a good thing. But I said, and they're also telling me, oh, I can't get a time in your calendar for 2 weeks. Yeah, that's a thing. And yet, what did I do? I squished one in. I went, oh, I know you can't get an appointment until the 21st of November. Let me just have a look at my weekend and to see if I could do. Like, really? I put the boundary in and then I give it flexibility. I give it
Right.
movement. And then I wonder why I feel like I've got a lot going on and maybe I don't feel like I have a weekend or whatever. Like it's like, but I make those choices. Um, and yeah, it's a bit self-created because we say yes.
It's interesting too because I find often my wife will get scattered like this too. However, she just came off of a girls' weekend, 4 days by themselves, whatever. And she's coming back to whatever the hell this thing is that I'm showing you. And she's like, "Isn't it
All the
great?
things.
Isn't it great that you're so busy? Like you got all this stuff going on. Isn't that cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, great." So her view of it is different because of how she's been able to balance herself off the last, week, right? Something that she hasn't had in a long time. Whereas I didn't get the same break that she did.
Before the
So
rush. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it's just a different vantage point to the same thing. But it's actually kind of cool to see her like being okay with it. You know what I mean? and
And
offer me a different perspective out of the rush.
sort of out of the chaos of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it feels like there's kind of two things we're covering here. One is it how do we prevent maybe the all the things all at once? And sometimes we can't always prevent that. Life's going to happen and it's just going to be a rush. There's things out of our control that we let in and we go, oh, and that's this week as well, and that's this week as well. Oh, is there anything else that could happen this week? And then immediately more things happen because we almost invite it in. So there's that ability for us to be present about what we are recognizing and what we're attracting more of. And are we attracting more chaos and more things? Or yeah,
Sorry, and that's a mirror of what I'm experiencing with my focus on the chaotic nature of the US politics, right? Like it's more of the same. So my focus has been very much there the last little while, and so why wouldn't I experience more of it? That's what I've been, looking for, more or less. So
yes.
it's total reflection of where I've been focused.
So that's one way to be aware so we can be a little bit more conscious of what we're really asking for and attracting in. But then there's the when we're in the moment and it feels chaotic, how do we deal with that?
Hmm.
And for me, it's about being really, really strict on my boundaries, which I suck at sometimes. I just I just don't do it well. I I like to think I do boundaries really well, and then I watch myself and I go, look at that. You just moved that boundary again. And so, um, you know, a little bit more to learn on sticking to the boundaries and knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anyone who gets this right all the time. I also find that most people that I surround myself with, you included, tend to be overachievers. We tend to like to get stuff done. And so then we also invite more in because we like to get stuff done. And if we've got stuff around, then we can get it done. So that's another element that I always have to keep in mind as an overachiever. If I just toned it down a bit, no one would actually notice that I was, they wouldn't think I wasn't getting stuff done. They'd think I was getting stuff done. And so maybe it's my perception of what it is I can achieve.
That perception is interesting too. I'm thinking about things around the house, things that need to be done, right? Like trying to cram in, oh, I've got time to do that one other thing, right? So trying to jam it full instead of leaving some of that space. Like there's another weekend, there's another day. You don't have to do it all today. Maybe it's time to take a break, to relax, to reset, um, instead of finding that other thing.
I've just got another 20 minutes. I'll just get that done and get this comes back to this overachievement, right? Getting something done or doing something for the sake of doing it rather than is that necessary now?
And that's what we have control over, is what we say yes to. All right.
Yeah,
All right. Nothing.
you
Oh,
have
no, I'm just
nothing.
going to call them all and say none. Nope. Done. Going on
That solves it
vacation.
all.
I'm going to Vegas. Screw y'all.
Yep, that'll work. That's it. That's the answer to it all.
That's
There
it.
you
Just
go.
give up.